Hello, welcome to Raymond Castile's Basement of Horror. This is part 2 of our King Kong and Godzilla showcase. Today we're going to look at Godzilla collectibles that were made for the US market in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Last time we looked at King Kong collectibles. Now we're looking at Godzilla. And of course, we're doing this now because there's a big movie out called Godzilla vs. Kong. So I thought, hey, for once, let's be timely and put out some episodes that coincide with something that's happening in the real world. Of course, if you're watching this a year from now, that won't mean anything. But right now, we're being timely and current and all that wonderful stuff. Okay, so where should I start? Now, originally, I just wanted to do an episode on Mattel's Godzilla's gang, the 70s Mattel Godzilla's gang figures. And that it just kind of snowballed, and I thought, well, if I'm going to do those, let's do the Mattel toy, the other Mattel toys, the Shogun toys. Well, if we're going to do that, then we need to do this, and if we're going to do these toys, then we also should do that. And they just got bigger and bigger, and then I realized, well, there's this movie coming out. Let's do all the Godzilla toys I've got. And then I thought, well, it's King Kong Godzilla, let's do King Kong, and the whole thing just became so ambitious, it's almost unmanageable. Now I'm probably covered in dust. I don't know. Just trying to get all this stuff together, I've had clouds of dust enveloping me, and so I'm sure it's just in my hair and everything. I don't really have much of a Godzilla collection. That's the thing. I had to dig up all this stuff. I don't really have a lot of Godzilla stuff. I have a few pieces. Almost all of it's US. I have more King Kong than I do Godzilla. So we'll see how this goes. I don't think you're going to see anything that's going to be a revelation. I mean, hopefully you'll see some cool stuff, but I don't think you're going to see something you've never seen before. But then maybe you will. I don't know. I don't want to sell it short. But I don't have a huge Godzilla collection. And I'll tell you right off the bat, you're not going to see. I'm trying to talk to you, and I'm sweeping the dust off of this thing. Sheesh. I'll tell you off the bat that I don't have any Trendmasters Toho Godzilla toys. I have this Trendmaster 1998 Ultimate Godzilla, but I don't have the Japanese style Trendmasters Godzilla toys, so you're not going to see those. I don't know, I remember when they were new in the stores, and I thought, I really ought to be buying these things. And something about the way they looked, or the proportions, I don't know, it wasn't my thing. I didn't care for it. Now looking back, I do wish I had a set of the big figures in the open face boxes. I don't need every Trendmasters thing, but I do wish I had just one of each of those big figures. That'd be nice. So you're not going to see those. So if you're waiting particularly for the US 90s Trendmasters Godzilla toys, you can switch off now. You're probably switching off now anyway, but if you were hoping to see those Trendmasters toys, you're not going to see them. I don't have those. So what do I have? What can I show you here? Well, we'll start chronologically, and then we'll kind of bounce around after that. Okay, so this is, oh, hey, look at this. I can now start and stop this third camera. So we won't run out of tape. I'll just start it when we need it and then shut it down when I don't need the shot anymore. Okay, so this is where it all started. This is the Aurora Godzilla model kit. And this is not a reissue. This is a vintage Aurora glow-in-the-dark Godzilla. It's either the 69 or the 72 glow-in-the-dark issue. I don't know which. But this is not a reissue. This is a genuine vintage Aurora model kit. Not monogram. They didn't make Illuminator's version of Godzilla. But it's not polar lights. It's none of that. It's an original Aurora Godzilla. And yes, so this is a vintage kit that I built and painted. You see, it's got the nameplate. It's got all the rubble from the demolished city. I'm sure that the residents of Tokyo, in addition to wondering why Godzilla exists and is destroying their city, they came out one morning and saw this big sign, this 20-foot tall sign. This is Godzilla. And they thought, well, how did that get here? And what does that have to do with this giant monster destroying our city? So I painted this thing to look like the glow-in-the-dark box art. And I left pieces like these fins. This is the raw, unpainted glow-in-the-dark plastic. Those white fins, it's not painted, that's just what they look like. The glow-in-the-dark plastic. And this model kit seems to be based on Godzilla's look in the original King Kong vs. Godzilla, which would have been the most recent Godzilla film when this kit was originally produced, because they put it out as a non-glowing version first in the 60s, and then they reissued it as a glowing Frightening Lightning in 69, and then the square box glow-in-the-dark kit in 72. Well, now, I say that. I think that's wrong. The Frightening Lightning was earlier. The 69 was a square box. That was the first square box, but it was a little bit bigger than the smaller square box is 72. And this is all getting into ridiculous minutia, so let's get off that topic. But anyway, here is... This is not the original issue. This is a reissue of the Aurora Godzilla kit from the 60s. Now, I mean, it's a reissue, but it looks just like the original kit. Let's see, and it even has the Aurora logo on it. But it's not the original kit. This is Polar Lights, isn't it? Let me see here. I think it is. Let's see here. Yeah, where's the year on this thing? There it is. Okay, it's 2000. Playing Mantis. So this is now 21 years old. It's a reissue, but it's already 21 years old. So it's 2000. Playing Mantis is the company that put this out, but it's a reproduction of the 60s Godzilla model kit from Aurora. So even the box art is reproduced. So that's why I'm showing this to you, because this is what I don't have a genuine boxed 60s Aurora Godzilla, but it looked like this. Like what you're seeing on the screen, that's what it looked like. This box. This pretty much looks like the original kit. And you can see the resemblance like that. This is a case where the model kit really looks like the box art. That wasn't always the case. It didn't always match. But with Godzilla it did. The box art pretty much looked exactly like the kit. So that's the first, I think, is it? Yeah, that's the first US Godzilla toy, if you want to call it a toy. It's a model kit. And I've read that it's either the first or maybe the second Godzilla toy of any kind, even in Japan. I'm not sure about that. I mean, that might be outdated information. I remember reading an article about the kit that said it was not only the first US kit, it was the first Godzilla toy, period, with the exception of possibly one other thing. So I don't know about that, but certainly with United States toys for the US market, that Aurora kit was historic, and that was the first Godzilla plaything, the first Godzilla merchandise aimed at kids, made for the US market. So it was after that everything else followed. But there really wasn't a lot of Godzilla merchandise for the US market. Honestly, not until the 90s with the Trendmaster stuff. There wasn't a lot. And then in the 2000s, you had finally Bandai started distributing their toys in the United States. You could go into a US toy store and find stuff like this, and you can still do that to this day. Here's some of the stuff that they've had many different series in this line. That's what else was available for this series. So the Bandai stuff was pretty readily available in the United States in recent years, in the last 20 years. Here's a Godzilla, just to show what that looks like. And of course, Bandai in Japan has been going strong for 40 years. They've been one of the premier manufacturers of Godzilla toys for a good 40 years. But only in the 21st century did they really crack the US market and start selling new toys in retail stores, new Godzilla toys. And today, of course, we have NECA producing new Godzilla toys for the US market. I don't have any of the NECA stuff. I'm not too crazy about it. I don't like small Godzilla toys, for one thing. And I don't like the way the NECA toys are articulated. There's just, the joints are too visible and they make it look kind of weird. I actually like the more Japanese style, simple, just shoulder joints, hip joints, maybe a neck or a tail joint, and that's it. For that type of toy, for a Godzilla toy. I don't like all the joints all over the place on a Godzilla toy. Look, it makes every Godzilla look like Mecha Godzilla. Like the NECA King Kong. They had a 1933 version King Kong last year, and it's still available. And it's cool, but I don't like all the articulation. It's too articulated. It looks like Mecha Kong. It looks like a robot with all that articulation. So I don't have any of the NECA Godzilla toys. I'll probably buy one eventually. A couple. There's a lot of them. But so you can go to Target now and see all these NECA Godzilla toys. So we've had, between the Bandai toys a few years ago and the NECA toys now, we probably have more Godzilla toys and of course the legendary, the studio legendary their Godzilla and all those toys now for Godzilla vs. Kong, and before with the previous two Godzilla movies, counting all that, we've had more Godzilla toys in US stores in the last decade or so than ever before. The only time that would somewhat compare would be the 90s with the Trendmasters, but even then, I don't think that compares. I don't think there was as much. I don't think the Trendmasters Godzilla merchandise alone compares to all this Godzilla stuff we've had over the last few years, between the legendary Godzilla, the new movies, the NECA classic Godzilla toys, and the US distribution of the Bandai vinyl Godzilla toys. With all that, we've had just a ton of Godzilla in US stores. So that's what it's like today. Now, when I was a kid, it wasn't like that. And in the 60s, this model kit, the Aurora model kit, was just about the only game in town. And in the 70s, we got a little bit more, but we'd never really, the floodgates never opened. There was always more Kong-related stuff, particularly with the Dino De Laurentiis 76 film kind of fueling that. And because you didn't need a license, really, you could have just gorilla toys and say they're, the kids understood it was King Kong. There was always more Kong in stores than Godzilla. But let's see. So that's Aurora. So in the 70s, Aurora put out the Monsters of the Movies. And this is a reissue again. This is the reissue of the Monsters of the Movies Aurora King Ghidorah model kit. And in the original one, it just said Ghidorah. It didn't. In fact, I don't think it had the. I could be wrong. I don't think it was Ghidorah. I think it was just Ghidra in the just two syllables, and I could be wrong about that. In the 70s Aurora kit, because the American dubs of the Toho films called him Ghidra, like two syllables. And of course, we know now his name is King Ghidorah. It's not Ghidorah, it's Ghidorah. And this is opened. I opened it. Let's see what it looks like in there. I had the Rodin, but when I was putting all this together, I couldn't find it easily, so I needed to get this thing on the road. So I needed to get started. So there's not much to see. Just model parts. Not very entertaining. It's just unpainted model parts. Let's see what the instructions look like. I don't know if these instructions are replicas of the original Aurora or if they've been redone. If they were the 60s kits, I would know immediately looking at it whether they were reprints of the 60s instructions or not. But I can't tell with this, with the Monsters of the Movies. I'm not as familiar with what those instructions look like. So, Aurora put out Monsters of the Movies, King Ghidorah and Rodin in the 70s, and this is a reissue of the Ghidorah. They didn't put out, so the Monsters of the Movies was a smaller scale. When you're talking about Frankenstein, Dracula, those guys, they weren't just this big, they were that big. And the Ghidorah and Rodin were also a little bit smaller than the King Kong and the Godzilla. They didn't stand quite as tall. So everything about that 70s Monsters of the Movies series was a little scaled down. So that's the 70s. Now there's something, where is it? Okay, here we go. This is not my smoothest episode. So if this is the first time you're watching Basement of Horror, you're not seeing me at my best. I don't know why. I'm a little left-handed today. I don't know why. Let's see here. Don't tear. Come on, get out of there. Whoa. Okay. So now I'm holding a rubber jiggler, and I've got dusty hands. I'm going to get dust all over the jiggler. Okay, this is a big, heavy, oily rubber jiggler of Godzilla, obviously. And it is molded off of the Aurora kit. And there's a whole series of these Aurora jigglers. Practically every character, save for a couple, was made as a jiggler. Now, did Aurora authorize these? Absolutely not. As far as I know, I would think not. The consensus seems to be that these are made in Mexico. These are Mexican bootleg jigglers. So they took some Aurora kits and just made molds of them and turned them into jigglers. Big, heavy, oily rubber jigglers. They jiggle all right. And a lot of them have these plastic eyes. I know there's different variants of the creature from the Black Lagoon. There's a Frankenstein, there's a Wolfman, there's a mummy, there's a Phantom. Obviously, there's a Godzilla. What else? I don't remember if there's a Hunchback or not. I think there's a Dracula. There's not a Mr. Hyde. There's not a witch. And I don't think anyone's found a King Kong yet. Not a forgotten prisoner. Oh, let's see, what else? Well, that's enough. So, most of the Aurora model kits were made as these bootleg jigglers. Not every one. There's probably a King Kong out there, it just hasn't been found yet. If they made Godzilla, they probably made Kong. And what do I not have? I don't have the mummy. And what was the other one I don't have? I don't have a Hunchback. And I think, do I have a Dracula? I don't remember. I don't think I do. I don't think Dracula has the cape. I don't think he has his cape. Well, so, bootleg rubber jiggler, probably from Mexico, made from the Aurora model kit. So that's an unauthorized jiggler. Now here is an authorized jiggler. This is a licensed Godzilla rubber jiggler. though it doesn't look very much like Godzilla. That is a Ben Cooper rubber Godzilla Jiggler. And you can see it doesn't look like Godzilla, it just looks like a Tyrannosaurus or something. But it's Godzilla. It's a licensed Godzilla Jiggler from Ben Cooper. Now, why does this licensed Ben Cooper Jiggler of Godzilla not look anything like Godzilla? Because it originated as a generic dinosaur Jiggler. I don't have one with the generic tag, but it does exist. These Jigglers do exist with a Ben Cooper generic tag that just says, I don't know if it's, I think it's Big Rex, maybe? I know there was a 90s toy named like Big Rex, but it was something like that. It was a name, like a real kind of generic name like that. Something like that, or King Dinosaur, or some generic big dinosaur name. I don't know. I have a catalog that has a picture of it and the name, but I don't remember. The point is that it originated as a generic dinosaur. So at some point, Ben Cooper said, hey, this could be Godzilla if we could get the license. Now, I think, I don't know what came first, but as we're going to see, Ben Cooper also had Halloween costumes of Godzilla. So I don't know if the Jiggler came first or the costume came first. I suspect the costume did. And maybe then they had a relationship with Toho. They had the Godzilla license to do the costumes. So they said, well, what else can we do with this license? Oh, we had this Tyrannosaurus Jiggler. Let's call it Godzilla and have a Godzilla Jiggler. I'll put him over here. So here are, is this something else? Here are the Godzilla costumes. First, we have the blue box, the blue monster box, this is my favorite Halloween costume box of all time, would be the Ben Cooper monster blue box with the Aurora glow kit artwork around the edges. I can open this, show you what's in here. Here. This box is in really good condition. So there's the mask. This isn't sealed in a bag, so you can't really see much there. Actually, it's not sealed. It has the bag, but it's... well, anyway, I'm not going to take that out because Halloween costumes, once you get it out of the box, you can never get it back in. You can never fold it back the same. It always, forevermore, it always sticks up. It's kind of like, well, it's like anything that's folded. Once you unfold it, you can never get it flat again. That costume there looks like it's folded very flat, so I'm not going to undo that. But in case you have any doubt, it's definitely Godzilla. Definitely Godzilla. Now this is copyright 1978. Here is this also, and I think the rubber Jiggler is also 78. So that, as we'll see, 78 there was a lot going on with Godzilla in the US in 78. So here is a different box. This is also Ben Cooper. Is it the same? It is not. Exactly, it is not. It is not the same mask. So this is also Ben Cooper. Ben Cooper Godzilla costume. You know, it's individualized Godzilla artwork instead of a generic box. This is specifically a Godzilla box with Godzilla character-specific artwork. And he looks like he's in the desert, doesn't he? There's something about the art. Maybe it's the sky. It just looks like he's out in the desert. I don't think that was the intent. But that's what it kind of looks like. That's cool Godzilla artwork. And that mask, even though at first glance it might look like what we just saw, it's not exactly the same. Very similar, but not exactly. It's more three-dimensional. I wish I could open it. The snout sticks out, whereas in this one it's all flat, kind of on the same. The one in the blue box, it's also sort of in the same plane, whereas this one is more formed. It sticks out more. Much more, actually. It has more of a snout. There's Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Now, around this time, there was Marvel Comics had Godzilla comic book, and Godzilla was interacting with the Avengers and all kinds of Spider-Man, all kinds of Marvel Comics characters. Also, there was the Godzilla Cartoon. I don't think I showed you this. That's a really cool side. The side of the box. I like how Godzilla's his body and his tail comes all the way around and snakes around in there. It's neat. I like that. It's a nice artwork on the side of the box. So we had the Godzilla costume with Gazuki. We had that family that traveled around on a boat, and they had the Godzilla signal. Whenever they got in trouble, they'd push the button and Godzilla would appear. And if you grew up during that time, then you've got the song stuck in your head. I'm not going to sing it. You know how it goes. You're singing it to yourself right now. Just the idea that there would be a signal like that, and Godzilla would come when called to save the day. Like, really strange. I understand they're translating the idea of Godzilla into a children's cartoon. I get that. But still, it's a little weird. The whole idea is a little weird. We're not ready for that piece yet. I'm jumping all over the place, but this is a Bandai Mothra toy. Now, this is a 2000s piece. My car, my new. So you recall that I had a wreck. I drive a Beetle, a yellow Beetle. It was hit. Unfortunately, it was totaled. The insurance totaled it. I now have a new yellow Beetle. It's a used car, but I have a different yellow Beetle than the one I had before. The one I had before was totaled. Now I have essentially the same car, another yellow Beetle. That's a whole other story. My experience dealing with insurance, and I haven't gotten my payment yet. I had to just go ahead and buy the car myself. So hopefully I'll get money from insurance. I hope that's still being negotiated. But anyway, the reason I bring it up is my license plate is Mothra. For 20 years, I've had a license plate Mothra. And so you would think that I would have the world's biggest Mothra collection. And in fact, I don't. I really only have 2 Mothra pieces, and this is one of them. I have this Mothra, and then I have a Trendmasters rubber bendy Mothra that's loose, and I don't know where that is. It's in a box somewhere. I couldn't find it in time for this. I used to have it at work on my desk, and so I think at my previous job, so I think when I cleaned out my desk, when I changed jobs, I think I put it in with the stuff that was on my desk, and I think it's still in that box. But I only have 2 Mothra pieces, so you would think a guy with a Mothra license plate would just have an amazing Mothra collection. I don't. I have virtually nothing. I have 0 Mothra collection. I have no Mothra collection. Why? I don't know. I just haven't. Well, because there's just not a lot that's readily available for Mothra. The Mothra stuff that's out there, most of it is made for the Japanese market, and a lot of it's expensive. I used to have a Yamakatsu soft vinyl Mothra larvae, but I sold that years ago. So, I mean, it'd be cool to have some Mothra stuff, but I just haven't spent the money on it. And I haven't really educated myself on everything that's out there so I don't get burned. I think that's a big reason I don't have it. I don't want to get burned. It's another genre of collecting that I don't know a lot about, and I could see myself spending hundreds of dollars on stuff that maybe I wouldn't buy if I had educated myself about it. I got cats coming and going here. So let's see. What else can we look at? So we looked at 70s Ben Cooper. Okay, so I have 2 cats. Black cat Billy that you know, and then I also have a gray tabby named Miss Kitty, and Billy's chasing Miss Kitty across the room back and forth, and they came right over here, then they went over there. So if I'm a little distracted, that's what's going on. Okay, so we looked at the Ben Cooper Godzilla stuff. Let's step back a little bit here. That was 78. And like I was saying, in 78, you had the cartoon, you had the Marvel comic, you had stuff going on. In 74, when Azraec Hemway International did all their monster toys, the Universal monsters, the world famous super monsters, they also did King Kong toys as part of that, which we saw in the last episode. And they did add Godzilla to that series, but not exactly, because they didn't have the license. They didn't have the Toho license. So they got around that by calling Godzilla Rex Dinosaur. I'm trying to get him out of here. So basically, this is the Eihai Godzilla, the Azraec Hemway Godzilla. That's it. Sparking Walker, Rex Dinosaur. They made a King Kong, which you saw in the last episode, and they made a Creature from the Black Lagoon, Sparking Walker. They also made King Kong Bendy and a water pistol and a Jiggler with Godzilla. They just made this. This is the only Godzilla piece. And it's Godzilla. You can see, obviously, it's breathing fire. It's supposed to be Godzilla, of course, but they call it Rex Dinosaur. And it looks like he's on Monster Zero's planet. yes, it is, obviously, you can see from the logo, it's Azraec Hemway, but also we can look at the feet and see that it's the Azraec Hemway version. And here is, this is probably a Soma version. Let me see here. Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, it looks just like the AI. So Soma made the Azraec Hemway monster toys. And then after Azraec Hemway severed their contract, Soma just kept on pumping them out anyway and sold them to other distributors. And I think this is a Soma, even though you can see that it looks the same. But anyway, here is a bagged Azraec Hemway style Godzilla. Now this is probably Soma as well, because there's no AHI logo anywhere. And I don't know if they did the creature and Kong in these bags like this. I can tell you that all three of these things look alike. I mean, there's hardly any way to differentiate them. The red key to wind it up looks the same. The paint scheme looks the same. They all have the toes on the feet. The feet are all molded out of yellow plastic. They got the guide pins, and just everything's the same. Now there's probably, and there's not enough light for me to really see it, but there's probably Azraec Hemway. Yeah, I can see there's an Azraec Hemway copyright on the bottom of the feet of the carded one. And that's not present on the bagged one, and it's not present on the loose one. It just is made in Hong Kong. So that's the only difference I see, is that the carded one says Azraec Hemway on the bottom of the foot, and the other two don't. But otherwise, it seems like it's the same toy. Now, later versions, they kept making these. I think they might even still be making them, but they kept making versions of these wind-up monsters through the 90s at least, probably to the present day. And you can find those counter display boxes. They have the creature Kong and Godzilla, quite a few of them. And I know people want to get a lot of money for those, but they're pretty common. And they're not as old as people think they are. And they have different colored keys on the side, and different shaped keys, and feet that don't have any toes. They're just straight edges, no toes. So there's differences, and they're painted differently. So there's a lot of variation, but if you want the original Azraec Hemway version, you gotta look for the dinosaur or Kong or creature. You gotta look for the Azraec Hemway copyright on the bottom of the foot. And which foot is it on this one? It is the right foot. It's on the right foot. So here on the Soma, it would be on this foot right here, but it's not there. And those are the originals. So if it doesn't have that, it's not original. Does that really matter? Nah, not really, if you just want the toy. We're just looking to get a cute wind-up monster toy, but don't spend a fortune on a wind-up toy thinking that it's Azraec Hemway, or that it's even from the 70s, because chances are it's not. Most of the ones you find are recent, fairly recent, like in the last 20 years or so. They're either 90s or 2000s. So, like I said, they kept making these. They never really stopped making them. So don't be fooled. So that's, well, okay, so let's skip around a little bit here. We're skipping all over the place. What else? What should we talk about next? I don't want to get into Mattel just yet. Let's talk about Imperial. So that would be in the 80s, the 1980s. Here is an Imperial Godzilla on a card. The bubble is yellowing, unfortunately. So we saw the King Kong on the part 1 episode with the Kong collectibles. And that bubble was not yellowing. I don't know why this one is. That's a nice image of Godzilla. Really good artwork. What year is this? $1992. So this one is from 1992. Now they made Godzilla toys, Imperial, earlier than that, but this carded one is from 1992. Let's see here. Here is essentially the same toy, but not on a card. This one's loose. It's got the same artwork on that tag, though. When was this made? This is 1992 as well. Okay, so this is a smaller version. Imperial Godzilla. And it's got a tag. Same artwork, and it's also 1992. But I am pretty sure that there are different versions of, well, they're all the same mold, the same sculpt, but there are different versions of this toy with different tags. They don't all have the same tag as this one. And I am pretty sure that Imperial introduced these Godzillas earlier than 1992. Because I know that in 1986, they did a whole series of Universal monsters, Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman, Mummy. And there's a boxed set of those that comes with Godzilla and King Kong. And I have that. Now, I don't know what year that is. Maybe that's 1992, but most of that Imperial stuff is 1986. So I think the giant monsters, I don't have the verification, but I think they also originated in 86. But I could be wrong. Let's put him over here. Here's another Imperial Godzilla item. same artwork, so I bet it's also 1992. Imperial went through kind of different eras where they changed the artwork. Yeah, it's 92. So this is a Bop Bag, and this box is kind of faded. That side's a little brighter. Godzilla Bop Bag. And they had different sizes of Bop Bags. This one's 48 inches. You see the kid bopping Godzilla there. That's an interesting image of Godzilla. I mean, he almost has a Loch Ness Monster kind of long-necked appearance. So Imperial made a 6-foot-tall inflatable Godzilla in a similar kind of a box. And they made other sizes of this Bop Bag. Okay, so now let's look at another Imperial. Now, is this one 92? We'll find out. Aha, it's got a different tag. This, I believe, is probably the earlier tag. Let's see if there's a date. Yeah. It's really hard to read. But I think it's 1985. 1985. So now I have verification. So this, we'll look at the toy in a second. Here's the different tags. So other Godzilla toys had that tag. A more serious looking movie style image, and the Godzilla logo is more like the way it looks in the movie, in the 1954 movie. Well, actually, in the American version, what year was that? That wasn't 54. Was that 56? The Raymond Burr version. Anyway, so it's a more movie-style, serious-looking design, the artwork. Godzilla, King of the Monsters, articulated. Let's see if we'll try our special camera here for this. So here's the big Imperial Godzilla. And I'll show you close-ups of this in a second. So this is a very iconic toy. This was all over the place in the 80s. And I'm glad it has that earlier tag so I can verify. Yes, 1985. That's probably the first year when they started making Godzilla toys. At last we have his face on camera. Took me a while, but here you go. Here's his face. This is what it looks like. So he looks almost exactly like the little one. He's just much bigger. But this is a very substantial toy. I mean, it's a big, heavy, substantial toy. I think these kind of get disregarded because they're pretty common And when they were new in the stores, they were very, very common, very easy to find. And so I think people kind of overlook them, but it's a very classic, iconic Godzilla toy. This is the Godzilla toy most kids had, certainly in the 1980s into the 90s. Look at his big tail. Got a big old tail there. I mean, it's actually a very good toy. Is it as detailed as a Japanese Bandai figure or a modern NECA figure? No, of course not. But it's pretty darn good. The thread for that tag is just about rotting away. It's hanging by a thread, really. It's not even really tied to the wrist anymore. It's just kind of wrapped around. But it's still there. So, here's the Imperial Godzilla. When people talk about classic monster toys, they don't talk about this, but this is a classic monster toy. This is a very, very iconic, important monster toy. A big old Godzilla. Not as big as this one, but big Godzilla toy. And there were companies that, what is it called? Dormai? Is that the name of it? There's a company that made bootleg versions of this that were not Toho licensed and didn't have the plates, the spinal plates, just had like points or something, but were obviously supposed to be Godzilla. And they competed with this. Now, Billy is sitting on top of the bag for this, so I think we'll just let that go. I can't put him back in his bag just yet. We'll set him over here. Okay, so that's 80s going into the 90s. What else should I show you? Before we get to Mattel. Let's see here. Where's my oh, that's what it's in that box. Okay. Okay, let's put you right there. Oh boy, this box, I tell you. This is going to be an adventure dealing with this box, but we'll take this out for now. Okay, let's take this out. Here, we're jumping all over chronologically. There is no chronology on this episode. It's just all over the place. So this is the Glj Godzilla Bendy. This is from the 1970s. And you can see that incredible artwork on that card. I think the card is why this toy is so important and so well remembered. And there's nothing on the back, just a blank card back. I think this is 78. Yeah, 1978. Like I said, a lot of stuff is going on in 78 with Godzilla. So it's a bendy. He's got his spinal plates, his little Stegosaurus plates on the back. They made that. He's very bipedal. He's very upright. He doesn't have the stance that you usually associate with Godzilla. He's almost like a man wearing a Godzilla. Well, I mean, obviously Godzilla is a man wearing a suit, but he's almost like he looks very human instead of like a dinosaur. He looks like a lizard man. But that's obviously a prototype, probably made of resin or clay or something. But there's that Godzilla standing in this little diorama. It looks so cool with the toy helicopter. Bend and pose into thousands of different positions. I don't know about thousands. Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't think you're going to get to thousands, because those little arms don't look like they bend a whole lot. I'm sure the legs would bend, the tail would bend. As a kid, I remember thinking that the mouth would open and close, but I don't think there's wires in that mouth. I don't think it has wires in it. It's a cool little Godzilla sculpt. I'm afraid of this bubble coming off. Let me see if I can get it better. Yeah, look at that. There, you can see it. Look at that sculpt. That's actually a pretty darn good representation of like the 1970s era Godzilla. It's pretty good. It's got the texture of his skin. And really, the only thing that would make this better is if he were more, instead of straight up, he's more like an angle with more bulk to him. But this is mainly because of that card art. This is another iconic piece. When you're talking about American Godzilla collectibles, this is up there. The Glj Godzilla Bendy. Now, I've heard that GLJ is the same company as Carlin Playthings that made the Monster Minis, but I don't know. I've just heard that online. I don't know if that's true. And I used to have the Carlin Monster Minis unlicensed generic Godzilla, which looks a lot like this. They made a Bendy like this, and they also made a solid PVC version, as well as some other monsters. And I used to have both of those on cards, but I don't. And I had it loose too. I had them loose, but now I don't have any of them. Sold all of my Monster Minis. I had a complete carded set of all the Bendies and the solid PVC Monster Minis, and some loose ones. And I sold them all. And now, since then, I bought back, I think, 2 loose Monster Minis. I think a Kong and one of the generic Kaiju. So I don't have any to show you. But there's another Godzilla Bendy from the early 80s that looks a lot like this. And I've heard that it's the same company operating under a different name. It's not exactly the same as this, but it's very similar. Okay, where should I put you where you're not going to get damaged? I don't know. Where can I put you? It's going to get damaged. Okay. Well, I think we'll stick you right there for the moment. Oh, Billy's still down there. Billy, why are you sitting on my bag? I can't do anything when you're sitting on my bag. Let's get this. This is 90s. Oh. Okay. Well, now Billy's gone. Did this get damaged? No. Okay, it's still in one piece. Everything's good. Got all his fingers. Everything's good. Okay, well, now Billy ran away. So now I can put this up. Okay. Let's go back here. Oh boy. This episode is just kind of rough. I don't know what's going on. It's not going so great. Let me just take you. I have a nice blank spot over there. Put you right there. And we'll take this. Okay. This is a Horizon vinyl Godzilla model kit. It doesn't look like a model kit, and it's kind of ridiculous calling it a model kit. But that's how it was sold. It was a pre-painted model kit. But I mean, essentially, it's an action figure. It's obviously it's a toy. It's a vinyl toy, and this is the early '90s look for Godzilla, like Godzilla versus Biollante, and then Godzilla, the '90s Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, and all those movies with Miki Sagusa, the psychic girl. That's Godzilla's look from those movies. So here he is, and you can see he's jointed. I mean, you can move him. I wouldn't do it very much, but he can be moved. He can be posed. He's jointed. He doesn't move very well, but he can be moved. But this was sold as a pre-painted kit, like a model kit. And he's got some play damage. He's missing the claw on his thumb. Broke off. I think that's the only thing that's missing. So yeah, I bought him loose. I think someone gave this to me. I think this was a gift. I don't think I bought him at all. It was a long time ago. Long time ago. And I think it had been played with. It had been used. Someone had played with it. But I remember seeing these in the box. I remember these were in U.S. hobby stores, and they were about $100. They were expensive. And they were basically pre-painted vinyl model kits. Instead of building it and painting it, they were pre-assembled and pre-painted. Now, I think that there were a lot of toys, Japanese toys, that were sold as model kits back then. This was in the 90s. And I think there was something was different about customs. And I don't mean, when I say customs, I mean like U.S. customs, like the legal customs, when you have to declare something for customs, that's what I'm talking about. I think there was a different customs situation and maybe a different tax situation for model kits versus action figures. And so a lot of toys, which are obviously toys, were imported as model kits, even though they were not models, they were toys. But I think they were treated differently by customs or by import regulations or by taxes. They were treated differently when they were classified as model kits versus toys. And the tail is jointed. So this is it was Japanese made. I believe this is Horizon. Or is it Bandai? Let me see here. What is this? Horizon 1993. Horizon 1993. Yeah, it's Horizon. I was wondering if maybe Bandai really made it and then Horizon distributed it, but it says Horizon on the bottom of the foot. Yeah, so 1993, and this is what Godzilla looked like in the movies in 1993. That's the design he had. So I mean, Horizon was a U.S. company, I think. I'm pretty sure it was. And this was sold in U.S. stores, not Toys R Us, but it was hobby stores, specialty stores. So this was for the U.S. market. It looks like a Japanese toy, but it's not. It's for the U.S. market. So that is an American Godzilla toy. Okay. So we're bouncing we had a 70s, 90s. What next? Do I dare put this back up here? I know what I'll do. I do dare, because I'll put his tail. That'll hold it up. There we go. All right. Okay, so I think we're at the. Well, okay. Let's talk about the small kit. We're jumping all over the chronology. Will this Ultimate Godzilla fall over now? Let's see. Okay, so what in the heck is this? This is a, what is this? This is a Polar Lights model kit. What year was this? Here we go. 2001. So this is a 2001 Polar Lights Godzilla model kit. And this is a styrene plastic, not a vinyl or anything. This is a plastic model kit. And it's got a blank back on the back of the box so that you can display that behind the model. And it depicts Godzilla in the famous scene from the movie where he's munching on the train. Now it's not, I've seen this built up, and it's a beautiful kit. It's big, it's huge. It's a beautiful kit. It doesn't look exactly like the 54 Godzilla. That's what it's aiming at. It's a little stylized. You can tell just by the pose, it's a little more action-packed than the 54 Godzilla and what it really looked like. So it's a little idealized, a little stylized, but it's basically the 1954 version of Godzilla. And it's got a huge base that's got like multiple layers. It's not just a simple base. It kind of comes up. It's got a lot of stuff, tanks and buildings and things. It's like the Aurora one, but times 10 as far as the base is concerned. Then he's up elevated from that, and he's standing up there with the train in his mouth. So it's a big, big kit, and it's wide, it's big. And its size is part of why I never built it. First, I just kind of like it in the box like that. But also, I don't know where I'd put it. It's so big. You can see how this little model almost gets smashed just sitting there. Where would I put this big thing without it getting damaged? Let's see. Let's look at this guy. Okay, so the 1998 Godzilla, a lot of people would say isn't really Godzilla, and I understand that. I would agree that the 1998 Godzilla is Godzilla in name only, which is why a lot of people call him Gino, Gino, Godzilla in name only. So this is a huge toy. It's the Trendmasters Ultimate Godzilla. And Trendmasters, because they had the Toho license in the 90s for all the Toho Japanese-style Godzilla toys, they also got the license for the TriStar 1998 American Godzilla. And they made a lot of toys for that. And this is the only one I own. It's a huge monster, whether you want to say it's Godzilla or not. It's a gigantic Godzilla-style monster. You know, it's supposed to be Godzilla. You can see the It's got just incredible detail. I mean, it's a beautiful toy. It's really an extraordinary toy. Unequaled until a similar toy was made for the legendary Godzilla a few years ago. And I don't have that. And the main reason I don't have that one is because the price, but also because where would I put it? Yeah, I mean, where do you store something like that? I mean, this thing here is hard enough to store. Where do I put this? It's in the basement. It just kind of sits on the floor. There's no place to put it. It's too big. I have the box for it. It's over there. I thought about bringing the box out, but I don't know. I have enough out here as it is. But where do you put something that the legendary Godzilla? This is about the thing this big, and it's huge, and it has a tail. I mean, where do you put that? That's the thing. I just don't have any place to put this kind of stuff. Now this makes a Godzilla roar. Let's hear the roar. So it has the traditional Toho style Godzilla roar, which is a little weird because this doesn't look like the Toho Godzilla, but it has the Japanese version's roar. So it roars like the Japanese Godzilla, but it doesn't look like it. And it's hollow, so you can stick action figures in its mouth, and then they go down into its stomach, and you can pop open the back and take them out, which is a little weird since Godzilla doesn't eat people anyway, so I don't know why you'd have a Godzilla toy that eats people, but I guess it's a cool little action feature. Let's see, trying to put this back without destroying things. Oh, so that's 1998, and it's got a bunch of fuzz on it right there. A whole bunch of dust. Okay, I think it'll be okay there. Oh, wow. I'm trying not to destroy this stuff. It's always a good goal if you can get through one of these episodes without destroying the toys. It's not going to work. Put that here. Put that here. Put that here. Put this here. Okay. All right. This can go here. Don't fall. Okay. So are we ready to start looking at Mattel? I think so. All right. No, I didn't like the 1998 TriStar film. I didn't like it at all. I don't know anyone who really does. But I thought that was a cool toy, so I bought that. It was on clearance back in 1998, or maybe 99 by the time I bought that. So that's why I bought it. It was on clearance. And I thought, well, why not? I got this gigantic toy. I'd love to have a 1954 Godzilla toy that looked just like the 54 Godzilla. That was lightweight, like vinyl or something. That was big. I would make room for that. If I had a big, like 2 foot tall 1954 Godzilla that really looked like the movie image, I would want that. Not if it were thousands of dollars, no, but if it were, you know, a couple $100 or something like that, that'd be cool to own. But I don't think there is such a thing, at least not in that price range. Well, okay, so we're into the final stretch now. We're going to talk about the Mattel. So after all that, we finally get down to what this episode was originally going to be. It was just going to be looking at the Mattel Godzilla toys. And it turned into this. So let's look at Mattel's Godzilla's gang, first of all. And we'll power up our other camera. So these, put there. Let's see, where's a good place? There's a good place. That's good. And I have these loose and packaged, so we're going to see them loose and packaged. I think we'll put you here. Okay, can we? You know, we can still see them. Okay. And finally, here's Godzilla. There he is. So you can see him, right? There we go. I'm looking at this viewfinder far away over there, trying to see if they're all visible. So there's Godzilla's gang. There's one missing, which I'll talk about in a second. I don't know what this is. This is in there. This is not Godzilla's gang. I don't know who made this. It doesn't have any maker's mark. I don't know. Does anyone know what this is? Who is that? Who made it? What company made that? What character is it and what company made it? I have no idea. So this is Godzilla's gang, minus one character, which I'll get into. And there is, let's see here, or there was a story about Godzilla's gang in the second issue of Toy Ventures. Brian Heiler of Plaid Stallions and Pod Stallions puts this out. And there was a Godzilla's gang article in the second issue that came out a couple months ago. He's now shipping the third issue. This is the second issue. You see there's a Godzilla's gang article. And I didn't write the article, but it's got some cool information. Shows all the critters. And this is interesting. Mattel advertising sheet. And the only thing that I got out of this that I didn't already know, let me turn off this other camera. There we go. The only thing I got out of this that I didn't already know was that I always thought, so these came out in 78. They were sold in 78 and 79. So Mattel made a big push. As you've been seeing, there's a lot of 78 Godzilla stuff. There was a big push for marketing Godzilla in the United States in 1978. You had the Marvel Comics, you had the cartoon, and there was just, I don't know if it was initiated by Toho or by American companies, but there was a big effort to merchandise Godzilla to kids in the United States in 1978. And part of that was Mattel's Godzilla's Gang. And most of these, all but Godzilla really, are monsters from the Ultraman universe. They're not Toho Godzilla movie monsters, they're TV Ultraman monsters. Not from the first Ultraman series, they're from the subsequent Ultraman shows. But except for Godzilla, they're all Ultraman. And I don't know why they didn't have Rodin or Ghidorah or Mothra or other Godzilla characters. I don't know why they made that decision. But the thing that I learned from this article, and who is this article? It's by Ray Miller. Ray Miller. Not this Ray. Ray Miller. The thing I didn't know was that I always thought Mattel contracted with Popey, a company in Japan that made vinyl action figures of Godzilla and Ultraman monsters in Japan. I always thought they contracted with Popey to simply issue the Popey Ultraman monsters in US packaging. So they just took the same figures that Popey already made in Japan, and then Mattel just stuck them in a US package and put them out for the US market. That's what I thought. That's not the case. What I learned in this article I didn't know is that these are unique sculpts for Mattel on the US market. These are not the Japanese Popey figures. These were sculpted specifically for Mattel's Godzilla's Gang. Popey made all these characters already in Japan, but they're different sculpts. And once I knew that, so they're part of a series called King Zaros. That's the toy series. So once I knew that, and I knew what to look for, I went online and I found on eBay the King Zaros equivalents made for the Japanese market, and they do look different. I mean, there's no doubt if you held the Japanese one, the US one, they're obviously different. They're different toys, completely different sculpts. I mean, the same character, so they look similar, but completely different sculpts. So that was interesting that Godzilla's Gang is more unique than I realized. I thought they were reissues of Japanese toys. They're not. They are new sculpts created for Mattel for Godzilla's Gang. They are made by Popey, but they're not in Japan, but they're not the same as the Popey Japanese figures made for the Japanese market. They were new sculpts made specifically for Mattel. So that was interesting. That was a fact I did not know. So let's look at the packaged versions of these. So these are the loose. We'll start with the one I don't have loose. So I have everyone represented loose except this one. And this is King Joe. His name is King Joe. He is a robot. So I can't show you him loose because I don't have him. There's his back. Now you can barely see it through these bags. And that's why it was important for me to show you the loose ones, because that's the only way you're really going to see the toys. But here's King Joe. This is the one I don't have loose. And the reason I don't have him loose is because he's got these little antennae. He's got 3 on top of his head and 1 on each side sticking out. See, there you can see it there. And the loose ones are always broken. If I could find one that wasn't broken, I would buy it. But every one I've found at least one of those antennae are broken, if not more than one, or maybe even all of them. So, and I don't want a broken toy. None of these are broken. I don't want broken anything. So one of these days when I find one that's not broken, I'll buy it. Doesn't help us today, but at least you saw him. You get the idea. I mean, it might, you know, it's maybe better to show him this way with the card. I think that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, I think it's probably, yep, that's the way I'm going to do it for the rest of them. I'm going to leave this card intact. Leave this white backer card and show him that way. It's easier to see, isn't it? Much easier. Yeah, that's how I'll do the rest of them. And you can see the what the card looks like. Godzilla's gang from Mattel, and the back shows all the different characters in the series. Okay, let's see. Put you there. Okay, here's Godzilla himself. He's a fat Godzilla. He's a fat little chubby Godzilla. So there he is on a card, or in a bag. And here he is loose. He's cute. I like him. I like how stout he is. He just, everything's kind of shortened and chubby. He's just a angry little Godzilla. Like, I'm gonna come get you. But he's got a friendly look though, actually. He's kind of ferocious and kind of friendly. He just wants to play. I think he wants to play rough, but he wants to play. And you can see the plates are very simplified. He's only got, what, 3 main ones on his back. I like that it looks like a toy. It's cute. It looks like a toy. It looks like a buddy. A little Godzilla buddy for you. Which one is this? This is Ella King. I don't know if I'm pronouncing these names correctly. That's Ella King. And here's the loose one. Ella King is interesting because he doesn't have any eyes. He has these stalks, but those are not eyes. He doesn't have any eyes. He has no eyes. He's an interesting color. I like his creamy yellow color. He's this kind of pale yellow. He doesn't have fingers, does he? Not really, no. He's just an interesting character. Interesting design. What else we got in here? So this, okay, this one is called, I think it's Ikarusu Planeter? Ikarusu Planeter? I think that's, I'm close. If that's not it, I'm close. Whoop. Okay, so here's Ikarusu Planeter. He's a bat, obviously. Bat creature. And it's my understanding that he's not one individual monster. There's a whole race of creatures like him in whichever Ultraman series he's from. There's a bunch of guys like this, not just one. This is an example of one of them, but there's a bunch of them, I think. I haven't seen the show, so I don't know. But he's neat. He's a little bat creature. Okay, which one's this? Okay, this one is called Nokogirin. Nokogirin, I think. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and no way to look it up to find out. So here's the carded one, and there's the loose one. I think he's my favorite. He's a stag beetle. And in the original Ultraman series, there is a character like this, but it's not the same character. This is a different character from a later Ultraman show. He's cute. I love his colors. He's got a lot of great color. And another thing that article revealed is that his head is upside down. So, and this is actually the top of his head. So it should be, I mean, he should be like, I'm not going to twist him, but this should be on top of his head. So the head is turned around. But the way this is how it's supposed to be. This is the toys painted this way because the toys has made this the front of his head. But an accurate representation of the character would have this head twisted around with this on top. So this would be what his face would look like if the toy were correct. And that's what he should look like. But instead it's upside down. So that should be the bottom of his head. But they thought he looked better like that. And you know, as a toy, it probably does look better like that. Now I think the Japanese version, the Popey version of this character does have the head turned around correctly. These are all falling over. Let's see here. Put that there. Okay, this is, I think his name is Marucci. Marucci. There he is. Marucci. So there's Marucci. Basically an orange dinosaur. And again, these are Mattel, Godzilla's Gang, 1978 for the US market. And yes, these toys were made, they were made by Popey, but they were made for Mattel. You know, Mattel contracted with Popey to make these for the Godzilla's Gang series, and these were new sculpts just for Godzilla's Gang, not reissues of something that had been previously produced. Popey had made these characters before as similar vinyl toys, but they were not the same sculpts. They completely resculpted them for Mattel. Okay, what do we got? This is Bimustar. Bimustar. It's a bird. It's a robot bird, basically. It's a metallic bird. Terminator bird. There he is. He looks like he has just had enough. He has had enough. He is throwing up his arms because he has had it. He has just had it. So look at this armor. He's cool. Here's his back. It's kind of like a turtle on the back. He's got like a stinger. Look at that tail. And he doesn't stand up very well because the stinger extends down below his feet. He stands up on this fuzzy tabletop, or at least he did for a while. There, see, he's standing up right there. But on a perfectly flat surface, I don't think he would do that. Would he? Oh yeah, he does. So basically he stands on tiptoe. So he kind of stands like that. So he does stand. But he's sort of prone to falling over. We'll just set him down there. Alright, so this is the final one. This is Mikras. Mikras. Here's Mikras. He looks like a little troll. And apparently, he's a good guy. I think Ultraman, or whatever Ultraman character it is. I mean, I'm really only familiar with the first Ultraman. After that, I really don't know about the other ones. But whichever Ultraman it is, I think he can call on this guy for help. He's like an assistant that appears from another dimension or something. I don't know. I'm not sure what I don't know how it works exactly. But he's like a helper. He's a weird little troll-like helper. Like, here I come, Ultraman. I'm coming to help. But he's cute. He's got an interesting shape. I like his horns. Big scary face. Okay, it's a big goofy face, I guess. He looks non-threatening, doesn't he? Once you know that about him, that he's a good guy, you can kind of see he's not non-threatening. So that's Godzilla's gang. Whew, okay. Let me put these away before I bring out the final things. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. What a mess. What a mess. I'm glad it's just about the end of the season because I need a vacation. It always seems like getting near the end, like I get a little threadbare. It's like I just barely make it through the last couple episodes. The next thing we'll do is bring out Rodin. We're jumping around a little bit. Okay, so this is 1979. This is a very, very iconic toy. This is the Mattel Shogun Rodin from 1979. So I'm showing you, obviously you can see behind me, we've got the Shogun Godzilla from 78. And then in 79, Mattel followed that up with, listen to those toys rattling around. Mattel followed that up with Rodin. And it would have been cool if they'd gone on and made Ghidorah and Mothra, who knows what else, but they didn't. They stopped at Rodin. And this is from the World's Greatest Monsters collection. But they never proceeded with that. Oh, listening, I just hate hearing those pieces moving around inside that box. So there's Rodin. I don't know if there's reflection glaring off the plastic. So I thought, should I open this up and take him out and try to assemble him? No. No. For a few reasons. I've done that. I've opened this box. It's not taped. There's just tabs you can bend and open it. I've opened it, I think twice when I first got it, just to check it. And then maybe a year or so ago, I opened it again. I think I saw, I didn't know, I had forgotten whether it had its insert or not. I wanted to check on that, and yes, it does. As far as I can tell, it has everything. It's complete insert, instructions. It has what appear to be the original rubber bands. Everything's in there. Everything is in there. It's completely unused. It's a very minty box. Let me turn off my extra camera there. Here we go. It's a very crisp, nice box. You can see all that wonderful artwork. See the little kid playing with his Rodin, and that was me. So actually my brother owned our Rodin when we were kids. Rodin was a property of my brother. I did not have a Rodin. Both my brother and I had Godzillas, Shogun Godzillas, but my brother Gamel owned Rodin. We both played with it, but it belonged to him. And unfortunately, he sold his Rodin, I think it was in the 90s, 1990s. That's why I don't have a loose one like this to show you. All I have is this box one that I bought as an adult collector. Ooh. There is an insert in there, but it doesn't hold it together very well. So there's the illustrations. So Mattel always has like a full color illustration on the front and then these line drawings on the back. And the line drawings are always printed directly on the box. And the color illustrations are like a sticker that's applied to the box. I don't know if that's the case here. Is it? Can't tell. I don't think so. I think it's all printed directly on the box. Ooh, that sound scares me every time. I think it's all printed directly on the box. But in other Mattel toys, it's a sticker. Here's some more artwork. I'm holding it at an angle, so hopefully the glare is not too bad. Okay, so this plastic is plastic I put on. This isn't the way it was sold with this plastic. I put it on there to protect the box. So if I were to open this up, I mean, his wings are not attached. I don't think his, I'm not sure if the back plate is attached or not. And I'm not going to attach the wings. They attach with rubber bands, and I'm not using the rubber bands in this box. They'll just snap. So I can't really show you the whole thing put together. And also the head is attached with some kind of a rubber cord, like not an O-ring, but I think it's probably got like 2 O-rings and a band in the middle, I think, something like that. It's like a thick black rubber. And just like the Kenner Bionic Bigfoot or the Alien or Chewbacca or Darth Vader, those big Kenner figures that have the arms attached with rubber bands, that rubber goes bad. And then the arms kind of go limp or they come off completely. So the head is, last time I looked, it's still attached, but it's kind of limp. Because it was, when it was new, that rubber band had tension, and that tension held the neck in the socket. But now the rubber band's probably mummified in there, and so the head doesn't have that tension. And the head just kind of, it doesn't really hold up very well. It does kind of, but not when it was new. You could pose it and it would stay there, and put it down. It was, it would stay where you put it, and it still does kind of, but it's sort of loose. So I'm sure if I applied any pressure, that rubber would just break. And I don't want that to happen. So that fragility is another reason why I don't want to take this out and try to mess with it and put it together. I think you get the idea. Oh, I have a photo of my brother's old Rodin. A couple of photos. So we'll show those photos. So you're looking at the Rodin that I would show you if my brother had not sold it many years ago. That's the Rodin that we had as kids. That's the Rodin that we played with. And it'd be nice to have a loose Rodin to show you, but I don't. Maybe we'll revisit the Shogun toys and just do an episode just on Shogun, in another season. And maybe by then I'll have a loose Rodin to compare and show you, make his wings flap. And because they flapped, it was really cool. It has holes in the back, and when the rubber bands are holding the wings in place and you move it, they flap, and his mouth opens and closes. It's pretty cool. He's got claws that snap, and again, there's rubber bands in the claws. Lots of rubber bands with this toy. Lots of rubber bands involved with this thing. Let's put this back. I'm just afraid one day I'll open this box and that head will have come off. And I don't know how I would reattach it. I guess you'd have to, because I think it's the two halves screwed together, so I have to unscrew it, unscrew the piece inside the body, and find some kind of replacement rubber part, reattach it and screw it back. And do not want to do that. So I'd rather just leave him untouched, just like that. He is a as MIB would say, he is now a museum piece. He is not to be removed. He is not to be messed with. Okay, so here's a Godzilla. This is our final piece. Let's take this out. Gosh, I got dust all over my hands. Okay, let's take this out. Okay. We'll start this other camera here. All right. Okay, so here is the Shogun Godzilla from 1978. So this came out before the Rodin. Shogun Godzilla. Whew. I have not opened this box in years and years and years and years. So I'm going to open it now and see what happens. Maybe something will jump out at me. I don't know. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, let's see. Boy, he is mint. Okay, let's see if we can... We're picking it up on this camera. You can see the instructions in there. Whoop, it's falling. Okay, let's try this camera. All right, so you can see he's got his instructions. He's got his insert. And he's got his tail. What's going on with his tail? Okay, well, his tail is in a plastic bag that's stapled to the side of the box. But the tail, it's not... the bag isn't sealed, though, so it's kind of a weird situation there. Okay, so here you can see it's stapled to the side. And there's, if we can get a look at this without destroying it. So you see there's the tail is in that bag, but the bag is open on the end, so I'm not sure how that works exactly. I mean, the tail's it's not coming out of there, but it's not a sealed bag. It's more like a piece of plastic wrapped around it. I hope the microphone's picking up my voice because I'm blocking it with this box. So it's not really in a bag so much as a plastic piece that kind of wraps around the tail. Maybe it's closed on one end, but the bottom is open. Here's the insert down there. And here's the instructions. Do I dare open them? I guess all of the Shogun warriors had the same instruction sheet. This one has Godzilla right there. So where is his fist? Where is his fist? Is it in... It's in there somewhere, I guess. Could it be inside the tail? I don't know. Could it be in this? Do I dare take this insert out? Okay, so it's not in there. Yeah, I bet it's inside this tail. Yep, it's inside. The fist is inside the tail. I just felt it. Okay. Oh, I see what's going on. So the bag is it's tearing away from the box, as you would expect after all this time. So it's not. So the reason it's open on one end is because if it were not tearing away, it would be stapled so close to the cardboard that there wouldn't be any room for anything to come out. But over time, it's coming loose from the. It's coming loose from the box, the staple. How was this? Was it like this? How was that? How was it? I want this back exactly like it was. I don't know. Close enough. All right. I am closing this up. Oh, well, let's, hold on, let me show you some details on this camera here. Rodin, you're in the way. Don't fall, Rodin. Actually, Rodin, I think we will get you completely out of the way. Let's move you over there. Don't fall over. There we go. Okay, nerve-wracking. There's Godzilla. Iconic, beautiful box art. showing the fist shooting. Here's the side. Here's that fist firing action. Okay, now this Godzilla in this box is the dark green version. The dark green version. This Godzilla is the light green version. Now this is my childhood Godzilla. My brother also had one. My brother had a dark green Godzilla. I had a light green Godzilla. And he is different. They are different. There's some differences in the way the lever is sculpted. There's other differences. A big one is that the light green version is full of sand. He's got sand. I don't know if it's just in his feet or if his body has sand as well. And I had him in a bag so he wouldn't get dusty, and he was lying on his side. And when I opened the bag, there was sand in the bag. So the sand's leaking out of this one. And when you move his legs, you kind of hear like a crunching, because the sand, I guess, is coming out from where the joints are. And I kind of remember that as a kid too, kind of a crunchiness when his legs moved. So the light green one has sand to weigh him down. The dark green one doesn't. And there's also a tab on the inside of the tail to kind of make it snap on. Like there's a slot. Whereas the dark green doesn't have that. It's just a round knob and a round hole that just snaps together. And like I said, the lever is a different sculpt on the green one, the dark green one. And there's other little differences. The light green one generally looks a little more polished. Did I say dark green? The light green. The light green one looks a little more polished. The dark green one, the paint's not as brilliant on the dark green one. It's not as bright, doesn't pop. And the dark green Godzillas have like glue that's visible on them, whereas the light green ones generally don't. No, you can't see any glue. All the dark green Godzillas have glue that you can see on the seams. So I don't know why there's such a difference between them, but there is. Also, the hands are shinier on the light green than on the dark green. So he's still in fantastic condition. I mean, you could put this one in a box and no one would be the wiser. Here, Rodin is about to fall over. Come on, Rodin. Get over there, and let's push Godzilla over there. Now we can put this Godzilla here. There we go. Now we can get a better look at him. So this, even though I played with him, except for a little bit of wear on his fingernails, other than that, he's in beautiful condition. And I played with him as rough as you could. I mean, he had wars. He got into lots of fights, but he's took a licking and kept on ticking. He's in great shape. He's tight. His joints, everything's perfect. So let's see his tongue in action. Mattel called this his ugly tongue. It's supposed to be his atomic breath, but here's what it looks like. So it's like a flame. And that's probably the first time that's been extended in years and years. And I won't do it now, but I used to when I was a kid. I would pull this down really quick and then let go of it really quick, so that his tongue would just flicker real fast. So I'd go, I'd pull it down real fast and just let go. So he had this like snake-like flicking tongue. I don't know why I did that. That was his personality. All my toys had individual personalities. And he had like a snake-like flicking tongue. Very un-Godzilla-like. But that was my Godzilla. That's how he acted. Then when he got angry and meant business, then he extended it and didn't flick back. And then he went, and that would be his breath coming out, blowing things up. Now you notice that they don't have the Stegosaurus plates. Popey made another version, their own version of the Shogun Godzilla that they called Jumbosaurus. Jumbosaurus, but it was Godzilla. And the Japanese Shogun Godzilla, Popey Godzilla, the Jumbosaurus, it looks a lot like this in many ways. The hands, and I think the feet too, look very similar. A lot of things look very similar. But it has the plates on it, on the back, the spinal plates. And the head, there's a longer neck, and the head is a little smaller. It looks a little more like the movie Godzilla. And then it has a voice box, and it has a pull string. And I don't know if, I've heard the roar, but I don't remember if it sounds really like Godzilla or not. Let's hear this again. If we can find it. That sounds like Godzilla. I don't remember if the Jumbosaurus sounded like that or not. But it was a pull string. So that was the Japanese equivalent of this toy. I don't know why Mattel made Godzilla look softer, more, I was going to say more dinosaur-like. I don't know what their thinking was. Why didn't they just give him, the plates? They could have just snapped in there. And it could have been like a softer material and just snap in. I don't know. But they kind of simplified the design. And of course, because he's a shogun, he's got a Shogun Warriors toy. He has to have an action feature. So the wrist shoots off, and of course we all remember the times in the movies where Godzilla shot off his fist. That was his big move. When all else failed, he would just shoot his fist off. So let's see here. Still works. Here we go. I store him with the fist off, which would make sense, but so it doesn't get messed up over time. And I do recall as a kid that he would occasionally fire the fist without any prompting. Occasionally the mechanism would slip and it would just randomly fire the fist. So you didn't want to be, staring eye to eye with the fist when that happened. But there would be times when he'd just be sitting there and not doing anything, and the fist would just fire off. And if I left him with the fist inserted, it probably would wear out the mechanism over time. But after all these years, it's still working. What else can I show you with this guy? He's got wheels on the bottom of his feet, so he could roll along. Because, Godzilla rolls along, doesn't he? But he's got pretty decent articulation. I mean, his hips, his shoulders, his wrists all twist. His neck doesn't move, but that's not a big deal. I mean, this was a pretty good toy. And I like that it doesn't look like the movie Godzilla. I like that it's off, because you would never see that today. It has a unique look. It's its own thing. It looks unique. It looks like the Mattel Shogun Godzilla. It doesn't look like the movie Godzilla. It doesn't look like anything else. It looks like the Shogun Godzilla. And you don't really get that these days. You know, with, you know, can you imagine a toy today, a Godzilla toy? He doesn't want to stand up because of, there we go. Can you imagine a Godzilla toy that didn't look exactly right? I mean, well, I'm afraid of things falling down again. But so we went from, you know, this, the very first one, which is pretty good. I mean, that looks like the King Kong versus Godzilla version of the character. Now, I've painted it to look like the glow kit artwork, but it does look like Godzilla. And then that little dino fell down. And then here's the 90s. Very realistic, very movie accurate take on Godzilla. And if you were going to make a toy like this today, this is what it would look like. It would look very realistic like this. So the ones made for the legendary Hollywood Godzilla movies, you know, they look like the creature you see in the movie. They're not stylized. They look like what you see in the movie. And that's fine. So, but I like that there was a time when we could have weird Godzilla toys that didn't look quite right, but they had a lot of personality. They were their own thing, and they had their own vibe, and they looked cool. And we could have a series called Godzilla's Gang that only had one Godzilla character and a bunch of Ultraman characters. So a whole set of Godzilla toys where almost none of them had anything to do with Godzilla. Or that Ben Cooper Godzilla Jiggler that doesn't look anything like Godzilla. I like that. I like the weird Godzilla toys that don't really look like Godzilla. that just go in their own direction. I think that's cool. But in a modern toy, yeah, I do like modern Godzilla toys to look like the movie image. I mean, I like a 1970s toy to look like a 1970s toy, and I like a 2020s toy to look like a 2020s toy. For instance, there was a kind of a remake of the Shogun Godzilla that looked similar to the 1954 Godzilla. They tweaked it, whatever company, I think it was maybe Gentle Giant, I'm not sure. I think that was it. Or was it Super 7? One of those modern companies. They made a Godzilla like the Shogun Godzilla, but they changed it so that it had some of the spinal plates and had a head that looked more like the 54 Godzilla, and it wasn't as green as this. I think it was like a charcoal kind of color, and that's cool. But I never bought it. I mean, for one thing, it was priced for the adult collector. It was expensive. It was like a few $100s. That's not fun. This is fun. When these were made, they were for kids, and they were priced for kids. So I didn't really want a adult thing. Of course, now if you're going to buy a Shogun Godzilla, it cost an arm and a leg. But it didn't when it was new. It was, it was a toy. So I never bought that remake of the Shogun Godzilla with the more movie style sculpt. I guess how many years ago was that? 5-ish? Between 5 and 10 years ago? Yeah. You can still get it. It's not that hard to get if you want it. It's okay, it's cool, but I don't need that kind of like modern remakes of old toys. Just don't interest me. I don't care. If they're cheap, okay, you know, why not? But if they're not, I don't need it. I don't need a modern redo of a vintage toy. So I don't know what else to say about Godzilla except you kind of see the progression. And there really hasn't been a lot of Godzilla stuff for the US market. Until recent years, there just hasn't been a lot of stuff. You would think there would be. When you think of all the Frankensteins and Draculas, all the King Kongs, you would think there'd be more Godzilla merchandise. Maybe part of that is Toho and their licensing. They're not the easiest to deal with when it comes to licensing. That could be it. But then Universal isn't always the easiest to deal with when it comes to licensing. So I don't know what it is. You would think there'd be more 20th century Godzilla merchandise for the US market. Good amount of 21st century Godzilla stuff from the last 10 years, but not a lot 60s, 70s, 80s Godzilla. 90s, you got the Trendmasters and some specialty things like this Horizon. And you know that's good, but it's weird that there wasn't more, particularly in the 70s when you had the big monster explosion. It's weird that there wasn't more Godzilla stuff. But at least we had that Godzilla wave in 1978 with the Glj Bendy, the Ben Cooper costumes, and the Ben Cooper Jiggler, and Godzilla's gang from Mattel, and the Shogun Godzilla, and the Rodin 79. And there are a few other items I don't have, a few other Godzilla toys I don't have from that late 70s era. Okay, well, this poster here, this is a X1x Godzilla poster from a few years ago. I talked about X1x in the last episode, and they made a couple little Godzilla toys, but they're King of the Lizards. They don't say Godzilla on them. I mean, that's obviously Godzilla, but all the X1x Godzilla merchandise says King of the Lizards. Trying to get around Toho and their licensing, their copyrights. Okay, that's it. My storage on my devices is filling up, so we have to wrap this up while we still can. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to this channel. Subscribe. Click the bell icon so you will be notified when I upload new videos. Also, please join the Facebook group. We have a Basement of Horror Facebook group. You want to join that group while we're in our post-season hiatus. I will upload some content to the Facebook group that I won't upload to the YouTube channel. And besides that, it's a good community. It's a growing community, and you should just be part of it. There's good people there. They're all monster fans and collectors. So join the Facebook group. Also, please consider voting in the Rondo Awards in the Best Documentary category for In Love with Toys. That's a documentary I made that's on this channel, In Love with Toys. It's a documentary I made in 1995, but I restored it for the holidays last year, and so that restoration is up for a Rondo. So please follow the link in the description and go to the Rondo Awards site and consider voting for In Love with Toys in the Best Documentary category. Okay, we've got only maybe 2 more episodes left. We're going to do a review of the Mego, Son of Frankenstein, and Wolfman Mego action figures. And then we're going to have our final episode, our final regular episode of the season, which will be a little bit different. It'll be here. It won't be a remote or, documentary kind of thing. It'll be here, but it'll be different. It'll be different. And then we'll be off for the summer. We'll do some special shows, one-off shows here and there. But for the most part, we'll be off for the summer until the new season, the 4th season, begins in the fall for the Halloween season, like late September, early October. And we'll have our annual Halloween giveaway. And we'll do all of this all over again through the fall, winter, into the spring. Okay, that's it. Until next time, remember, the one who dies with the most toys is dead.